Hotep. Brother Kua, Hotep. Anjo Jasane, brother. Today, first, let me congratulate the Sudanese people for their great overcoming, and they still overcoming all the obstacles. The Sudanese revolution is taking quite challenges, let's say, but at the end of the day, we need to establish a form of an agreeable nationality. This is the most important part, is to find a common ground as a national people, to overcome the tribal ethnic background, to overcome the traditional religious background, and to establish a form of a national identity. So the consciousness of Kemet, it's a long process. The consciousness of Kemet it took us many years to absorb it. So it's not gonna happen in one day or in 1 year for the Sudanese people just to embrace this Kemetic culture, spirituality, consciousness, especially with a country that it's very poor in accessing knowledge and information, and just like any African country who is very poor in resources and poor in low self-esteem. So to observe the Kemetic nationality, the Kemetic way of life, it comes with a high price, and it comes with a high level of accessing that consciousness. Today topic, which is Kush, the origin of Kemet, it's very important topic to discuss, because Kush is the backbone of Kemet, and Kemet being Egypt today has been conquered by many enemies. It's been conquered by the Greeks. It's been conquered by the Persians and the Arabs, let's say. And they haven't been able to conquer Sudan. That's Kush. The army of the Kemetic establishment is not that much of a powerful army. The state did not put many investment on the army as much as on the architecture and the art and the Midunecha and the knowledge and learning and writing. This all been changed when Jahutimas III took place. When Jahutimas took place, he changed it. He changed that system from being a passive nation into a military and a powerful nation to conquer, because they changed the strategy of Kemet. Let's say they changed the strategy from living in their environment to conquer, and the only reason to choose to conquer is to protect themselves, because Jahutimas III found out that if we didn't conquer, we will be conquered at the end of the day. So we have to we have this saying that you have to approach or conquer before you get conquered. But this is in the 18th dynasty, the Jahutimas dynasty. But let's start from the beginning, because Sudan, Kemet to us is different from Kemet to the world. To the world, Kemet is fascination, is culture, is spirituality. To the black people in the diaspora, it's a sense of belonging. It's a way of telling the white people that, hey, we don't belong to your culture, we have our own African culture. It's a sense of belonging to Africa and a sense of self-esteem. But to us in Sudan, it's bigger than that. In Sudan or in the Nile Valley, it's nationality, it's politics, it's Sudanese community, how to develop a Sudanese nationality. So to us in Sudan is a critical point. Kemet, we have to bring this consciousness to the Sudanese people as a nationality. Now we all know how great Kemet is, but we only know that by accessing the Midunecha. So the cultural background, not the big stelas or the big Takhin, or what is it called? The big pyramids and all the architecture that come with Kemet. It's actually the culture background, the language. What's important about the language is that it has an origin in Kush. So the origin of the culture of Kemet, the backbone of the culture of Kemet is Kush. But what is Kush? There is many misunderstanding of interpreting Kush and not giving Kush the credit for Kemet. We all know what the Greek did. We all know how the Greek conquered Kemet and how they changed the face of Kemet into a Greek language, a Greek culture. But what the Greek did changed the face of history, because conquering Kemet or Egypt today is not that it wasn't that a hard thing to do. I mean, the Persian king or the Persian Empire, they conquered Kemet 2 times. But they didn't change the culture. They didn't colonize. The colonization is when you bring your culture with you. And the Persian, they don't have a real culture to begin with, compared to ancient Kemet. But they took the land, took their goods, and that's what the Greek did. But they didn't actually conquer the colonize. They didn't colonize Kemet. So what they do is that the ancient Kemetans or the ancient Egyptian, they go south, so they seek refuge or they flee to Sudan. They flee to Sudan, they stay there, they build families, they live for years, and it's like coming back to their origin or coming back to a safe haven when Kemet being conquered by whatever, the Greeks, the Romans, the Persian, etc. So Kush is the root of the tree. And when you cut a tree, it grows back as long as its roots is there. But if you cut the root of the tree, then the tree is dead. That's why trees, you cannot kill a tree that easy unless you cut it from its root. So Kush is the root of that tree. Kush is the cultural background of Kemet, linguistically, culturally, ethnically. So the Greek put their dominance over Kemet, but they cannot conquer Kush. They don't. It's very risky. There's a very known saying about Alexander the Great when he kicked out the Persian and he conquered Kemet. They give him this name. They call him son of Amun, which is a title that the priest gave him. when he was in Kemet, and this is very important time, because this is where the change happened, the cultural change happened. He wanted to conquer Kush, so he took his army, all his army, his weapons, and he just went there, and he took that gesture to conquer Kush, because Alexander, he had that ambition to conquer the whole world, and he has that big ego. So when he saw the Kushite army, and the Kushites are famous for their army. The Kushites are famous for two things: an army and the writing. They are literally people, the people who write and read, and they are people of war. They are people of battle. They know for their courage. So a wise man from the Kushite army, he came and approached Alexander the Great. This is the story that we know. And he said one thing to Alexander. He said that, let's not do this. Before the battle started, the two head comes together, and they make, like in the movies, they do like a negotiation. So what are you going to do? Are we going to fight? Are we going to do this, or are we going to go back? So the Kushite general was a wise. He didn't use the power, or he didn't use that tone that we are ready for you if you want to fight. But he said just a few words. He said, we don't have to use force, or let's not go that way, let's find another way. And Alexander thought about it, and he looked to the Kushite army, and he decided to go back to Kemet. So long story short is that conquering Kush is a challenge. Conquering Kush means going deep in the south. That means entering the Ethiopian territory, and that means bringing all the Kushite family into the battle. And this is not easy thing to do. Especially Ethiopia is known for being the land that hasn't been conquered. There's so many reasons for that. It's not just for being powerful. The land is very bumpy for our army to conquer. There's so many mountains, and of course Ethiopia is the origin of the Blue Nile. And Ethiopia and Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, those are the Kushites. So let's put this in perspective. Let's be very open about this. Let's speak about this very openly. The origin of the Kushite and the origin of the Kemet are the people who come from the Blue Nile, the source of the Blue Nile, like the blue lily. That's why Kush symbols the blue lily or the blue lotus, because that's the Blue Nile. So it's very hard to conquer that land because the mountains are very high and it's very bumpy, so it's very hard to conquer that land. And this is where the backbone or the back back of Kemet. This is where all the Kemites, when they get conquered, because Egypt is a flat land. It's easy to conquer Egypt. It's a flat land. So the Greek, they can dominate this land very easily. But the culture or the people who protect the culture of Kemet are the people who are in Kush, in Sudan, and part of East Africa. So the Greek made a treaty with the Kushite. And it wasn't a real treaty. It was a form of a demographical change in places. They brought a people called themselves the Nubatis. And they inhabited the land of south of Egypt and north of Sudan. And I'm sure you know those people. You meet them when you go to the Egypt. You meet the black people in south of Egypt, the Nubians, who have their beautiful way of coloring their houses with the doors and the music, and they're known for working in tourism and working with the tourists and taking them cruises through the Nile. And when you go there and you find those Nubians and you feel that this is, at least I'm witnessing some kind of a black people interaction, because this is where the black people, the black face, you start seeing that black people when you go to Luxor and when you go to Aswan and these places. The Nubians are known for being a peaceful tribe, very hospitality people, and they're not much of a fighter. They're not a fighting kind of people, and they're not much of a reading or writing people. So they didn't write down their language, the Nubian language, but still living in their in their songs and in their way of life. So the language exists orally. They didn't write it down. Now, we're talking about a very small percentage of people. So when we talk about ancient Kemet, we have to speak about the Greeks. We have to speak about the Greeks. We cannot skip, especially for someone who's listening to us for the first time. We always bring out the Greeks because the Greek conquered the land, and they basically put their name in everything, like hieroglyph, and Egypt itself is a Greek name. So all the names is practically Greek. Egypt, hieroglyph, pyramid, itself is a Greek name. The Nile River is a Greek name. So when we say Kemet, we have to say that it used to call Kemet, but the Greek changed it into Egypt. The language is being called Rani Kemet or Midunecha. That's the hieroglyph, the drawing hieroglyphs is called Midunecha, but the Greek called it hieroglyph. That's why Egyptologists use the Greek terminology. And with that same rhythm, they use that same rhythm to speak about Kush. So they say Nubia. So they use the same rhythm of the Greeks, because the Nubia is the Greek terminology, or what the Greek brought with them, and the Roman. And this Nubian / Roman Christian kingdom lasted for 1,000 years. It lasted for 1,000 years after the fall of Kush. This kingdom was known for being an ally to the Romans. So they used those Nubians, and they used them to change the way of the place, to make a demographic place, because the Kushite, you cannot conquer the Kushite. There is no way that the Kushite will just give you everything, or they just give you their land and their goods. You have to use a different tribe to do that for you. A tribe that does not have that history, that background. So by using those Nubians, they changed the terminology from Kush to Nubia, and they continue to conquer the rest of the Nile Valley. They continue to conquer the rest of the Nile Valley. And it's very important to point out that when we say Nubians or Kushite, we're speaking about a group of people, not individuals. Because our problem in Sudan is that we group in tribe, and we think that my tribe is better than your tribe, and my tribe is greater than your tribe, and and some of them say that my tribe is being misused, so I need more wealth and I need more power. It's happening right now in Sudan, in Darfur, which is the region that witnessed a hardship and a genocide. So it's not about the leaders now of the Darfurians. They're not much into helping their people in Darfur as much as they just want to be part of power in Khartoum. So we have this ethnic tension in Sudan. So Kemet to us is very different than Kemet in the West, because Kemet in the West is a Kemet in the Western Hemisphere is a prestige. Is that right? Am I right? It's a prestige. It's hey, look at me. I belong to the Nile Valley civilization. I'm black and I'm proud and I have that great heritage. But to us in Sudan, it's a nationality that we need to unify all the Sudanese people. To do that, we need to clear things out. And one of these things is what happened in the fall of Kush. And the problem is that, especially with the Nubians, is that they are very passive tribe, very small in number. They probably the smallest number of the Sudanese people are the Nubians. But the problem is that they always put themselves aside from the Sudanese people. They don't see themselves as a Sudanese people, and it's not their fault. It's not entirely their fault. Some of them it's of their fault, and the other is what the history of Kemet has been given to them. Just like the Greek did. Just like the Arabs did. What happened is that once you conquer Kemet, you get the heritage. You become it. The Greek become pharaohs at the end of the day. And they took all the glamour. The Persian also, they become pharaohs and they took the glamour of Kemet. It's a spoil of war. When you conquer a place, you don't just take the goods, you take the culture itself. You take the glamour with you. So all the glamour of Kemet, or the glamour that Kemet can give from culture, heritage, power, influence, history, and civilization as a whole, it's all been taken and put to this small percentage of the people who call the Nubians. Even Dr. York is one of them. So Dr. York, you know Dr. York. So Dr. York, he did a great work to liberate the black people in the diaspora, but he formed that cult, right? Which he called the Nuwabians. And what do the Nuwabians, who are the Nuwabians? It's a cult. It brings back his ancient or his background ethnic heritage. Because Dr. York is a Mahdi, is one of the Mahdi family, and the Mahdi family in Sudan, those are the Nubians. So they have this ancient heritage, and it is ancient. So let's put this in perspective. The Nubians are ancient people. They came with the Greek and the Romans. So they are very old. They are older than the Arabs and the Persian and all that. And let's not mistake that the Nubians are African people. And this is what makes that very hard to grasp. Because for us to analyze and to put on perspective what Kemet is and how this came about, the problem is that we put the blame on the foreign who come from outside, the white, the yellow, or the white and the nomad, or the Semitic people, the Semitic Abrahamic nomadic people, or the Caucasian or the white people. Those are the enemies of Kemet. But guess what? There is also a native enemies of Kemet. There is these tribes in Kemet that they do not want to be a part of the nationality. There is certain tribes in Sudan, they don't like to be Sudanese. They don't like to be part of the Sudanese nationality. They want to be their own. And it's very hard to be to negotiate with these individuals, because you either be a part of the Sudanese nationality, or you separate and make your own country. As for the Nubia, or the Nuba people in the Nuba mountain, they can easily separate and they can make their own country. If they're into their Nuba heritage or the Nubian ethnic background that they want to be proud of, and they don't want to be part of the mixed Sudanese nationality, they can separate and make their own country. The Nuba mountains, the land is bigger, the size of the land is big as the size of Belgium. The Darfurians, or the region of Darfur, is as big as France. So these are big lands. They can make their own country if they don't want to be part of the Sudanese nationality. But what about the Nubians in the north? What are they gonna do? Are they gonna make their own country? How can they do that? They live in the middle between Sudan and Egypt. They live exactly in the borders between Sudan and Egypt. This is where the Nubian lives. So if the Nubians want to make their own country, where are they gonna go? So it's impossible for them to claim their own country or their own background. So they have to be part of the Sudanese nationality. What happened is that when Kemet fell and the Greek came, the Kushite been conquered all the way south, and this gave a place to this new people or this new tribe to live. and they live in that place, and they have a treaty with the Persian. No, sorry. They have a treaty with the Romans. And the treaty is that they give all the goods of the land to the Romans, and the Romans provide protection to them. They're not a fighting tribe. It's not a fighting tribe. It's not a tribe that known for any heroic act. It's a peaceful tribe. So they fulfill that gap that the Greek and the Romans want. And they also started the Pact agreement with the Arabs. And they started the first slave trade in history. The slave trade in Sudan with the Arabs. A treaty. There's no fight once and at all with the Nubians. There is no fight. There is no rebellion. There's always a sort of a compromise. There is always a treaty. There is no struggle. There is no a kind of any approach to protecting their land, because it was in their land in the first place. It was the land of the Kushite. This is a very important announcement that people need to know, because now they are speaking about they calling themselves Kushite, and this is a problem. It's not that they're not Kushite, because they're not Kushite, but the problem is that you cannot hide behind whatever that is. You have to bring yourself. You cannot hide behind the Romans, because that's what they did with the Christian kingdom that lasted 1,000 years. But they haven't written down one single word about what that civilization was. If you ask any Nubians today, what is your cultural background, he will tell you Be'ankhi is my background. He will tell you that Taharga is my background. But those are not their background. These are the Kushite. They are the ones who were before they came. What's the problem? The problem is that you have to show your face. You have to bring whatever that you have. So they were hiding behind the Romans, and when the Romans left, 1,000 years, nobody wrote nothing, nobody speak about nothing. For 1,000 years, they came the Arabs, and they made a treaty with the Arab, and they started with the Arabs a slave trade, selling Africans to the Arabs. They did that. We have to confront history. We cannot run away from it. This is history. It's been written down. We cannot run away from it. We cannot hide it. It happened already. It's been written down. So what we need to do, because I know exactly what you think. You think I have something against the Nubians? You think I have an ethnic tension between them? That is not the case. I love the Nubians. Personally, I love their music. I love their language, and I love their colorful houses that they make, and the tourism that they will establish. So don't get this twisted. You have to understand that loving a tribe is different from claiming yourself as this tribe. It's very different. When Sudan have a civil war against the South Sudanese, it was a horrific civil war. It lasted the longest civil war in Africa. 50 years of war. The North, we from the North, and our tribe is fighting against the South Sudan. So we stood with South Sudan against our own tribe, against our own people, because they were doing wrong. And that's what the Nubians should do. That's what the brave Nubian should do. A brave Nubian should not stay hiding in his tribe. He should step out and speak to the other Nubians or stand against them. Why? Because this culture is not theirs. It wasn't theirs to begin with. And this is very important in Sudan and in history, and to bring out the history of Kemet and how Kemet fell apart. When I wrote the Midunecha, and I have this great story that I'm willing to share with you today, I wrote this book called Midunecha in Arabic for the Sudanese people. And I took this book and I went to the Ministry of Culture in Khartoum. I went to the Ministry of Culture to meet the minister. Before I met the minister, I met the secretary of the minister. The secretary was a woman, a very proud woman, Sudanese woman, elderly, over 50, wearing that Sudanese white top like every hard-working Sudanese woman wears. Very respected, elderly Sudanese woman. She took my book and she looked at it. And I cannot forget this. She said, "My son, this is the Nubian language." And she was very anxious. Her eyes was dripping out. And all her veins are just came out. It was very emotional thing to her. Very emotional. Because when she saw the language, she associated with the Nubian language immediately. And that's what we all did. We all, when we started this Kemetic, Kushitic scholarship, we all go to the Nubians. They're like the Ampu or the Anubis of this culture. So Anubis is the jackal who knows the secrets to this culture, who knows where to go. So the moment you speak about the Nile Valley civilization, a Nubian he comes out from out of nowhere. You're gonna meet a form of a Nubian individual, and that's because the old and the heritage that they have lived on this land for thousands of years. And a legend with the name like The Gods Love Nubia. That's a very known play. It's been written in the West. So the West did play a role in this. The problem is that individually there's no problem. So an individual person, whatever tribe he is from, is not a problem. The problem with the collective. So the collective, or the one who speak on behalf of the tribe, that's the person who uses Kemet as a spoil of war. I call it as using it as a spoil of war. And some of those people, you know, like Osarim Hotep, the scholar slash IT software engineer. He uses Kemet as a spoil of war. He just wants whatever he does. Whatever he does. Wait a second. I'm sorry. Whatever he does, Osarim Hotep, whatever he does, he uses Kemet for the Bantu tribe. So he is using Kemet just like the Nubian did. And just like the Greek did. He doesn't really care about the Middle Nature as a language, as a culture. I spoke with him many times. And he told me that Rani Kemet is a dead language. And it's bye-bye. It cannot be recycled again. It cannot be revived again. It's gone. That's what he told me. We need... now, he spoke about the Swahili being the language of East Africans, or the collaboration of the East African, and he knows little. He doesn't know much about Africa, and he couldn't care less about Africa. But he thinks that with his Bantu heritage, he thinks that he can speak on behalf of Africa, and that's not the case. Africa has so many faces. Africans have so many faces. So the big lips and the form nose, this is not the face of Africa. There's Africans in Australia who look quite different than any Africans you see. And there's Africans in East Africa who look quite different than any Africans. So Africa or African people or melanated people are one of the most diverse people on this planet. They come in different colors, different hair shape, different noses, the different bone structure. So limiting African face or limiting African feature, this is very wrong. And limiting African tongue or African way is very limited. You cannot limit how Africans can change through history. So Osar Imhotep, he wants to jump from the Kushitic heritage of Kemet all the way to the Bantu. Not only that, he worked against Kemet, because you have to understand, if you go against the Kushite, you are going down. That's first. Whoever you are. The moment, I don't care where you're from on this planet, because Kemet is everywhere now. We even speak on this international language just for you to pick up whatever we say. But wherever you are on this big planet, if you go against Kush, you're not going to win. In any battle, you are going to fight. Because Kush is the backbone of Kemet. And Kush is the root of this culture, the language of this culture. The Kushite, let's give names. The Kushite, the Bija, the Hausa, the Oromo, the Afar. These are the tribes. These are the tribes that make up the Kushite. There are many of them. I just name a few, just for you, because for the Sudanese people, we're speaking about the nationality. So we're not bringing this ethnic to play on our arena. But in the diaspora, they only care about this ethnic thing, because in the diaspora they have this luxury of speaking about Kemet in all aspects of it. They study Kemet just like the white man does. The black people in the diaspora, they study Kemet just like the white man do. And they live in the white man palace or the White House. They are part of the white man agenda at the end of the day. And they are part of the system, of the white man system. And they are powerful in the white man system. They can't go out and make their own African system. They're power in Hollywood. They're powerful in Hollywood. They're powerful in NBA stars, in rap. They're powerful in their own, in what the white man make for them. So it's very, very different. And they snatch, or they took Kemet as a West African heritage. And that is not the case. And it's not the truth. I've been calling those Africans, the black people in the diaspora, for years to visit me in Sudan and to see the Kushite pyramids. But all they do, they come to Egypt. All they do, they come to Egypt, and from there they go to Ghana, West Africa, because that's where they belong. It's where the slave trade. I've been to Ghana. So it's where the slave trade started there. So it's their own thing. It's not about Kemet. Let's be very clear about this. They are into their own slave trade thing that happened to them in some point in time. It's not about Africa. It's not about the whole story. Because if they care about the whole story, they wouldn't stop at the Greek. They will go further and bring out the Kushite. Or they speak about the fall of Kush. And they mix between Kush and Nubia. We should not mix between the two. We should be very clear what Kush is and what Nubia is, because the culture is different, the heritage is different, the background is different. So the Africans in the diaspora, they go to Ghana because that's what the slave trade started there. I've been to the point of no return in the coastal, the Great Coast. The point of the new return is where the slave ship took them to America. I have nothing to do with it. So they made Kemet look like them. They made Kemet look like them. They did to Kemet what the Greek did to it. Those in the diaspora, what they did to Kemet is what the Greek did to, what the Romans did, and what the Nubians did. All these people, what they did is they used Kemet and they put their own face in it. I have never seen those in the diaspora speak about the Kushite and their origin and East Africa in general. Never. They never speak about East Africa. And when you look out and when you look at those paintings in the pyramids and in the ancient places, and you see those Kemetau or these ancient Egyptians, you can see that they look East African. The structure, the bone structure, the face structure, you can tell. I mean, it's very obvious that you can see that those ancient Egyptians are in so many ways, they look like the East Africans. They never speak about that. They never mention that. So I came to a conclusion that Kemet is like a treasure hunt that everyone wants to take it. Like in the movie The Lord of the Rings, that creature who take the ring and he call it my precious, oh my precious. So to all of us, Kemet is just like that ring. It's a treasure. It's something that we want to take. That's why Osar Imhotep make all these slides every day, millions of slides, just speaking about Bantu and Kemet. Bantu and Kemet. And Sheikh Anta Diab speak about Wolof and Kemet. Wolof and Kemet. And the Nubian scholars speak about Nubian and Kemet. Nubian and Kemet. They all want to make Kemet their own. It's a property. They think Kemet is a property. And the way, because they get this knowledge, because this knowledge you cannot take from anyone. All respect to Asar and all the scholars who know this, that this knowledge and this scholarship, we have opened our eyes to it, and we have a responsibility towards it. So you can't use it to your own benefit, to benefit your own tribe, to benefit your own ancestors. No, you should use this into a collective African people, to all of us. That's why when this scholarship started very innocent, very powerful. That's what's all scholarships start. And the rebel, the movement always start pure, but it becomes corrupted at the end of it. So the purity starts at the beginning. That's why in Sudan it's still pure. The movement is still pure, still have this pure intent, which is for the nationality of the Sudanese people, the nationality of the whole Sudanese people, not being with tribe against other tribe. Lastly, what's so important about Kush? What is so important about Kush? Kush has been written in all the scripture, and it given to the vice president of Kemet. Let's use that word to describe what Kush is. The vice president, or the second man in Kemet, is Sana Sutni Kush, the son of the king of Kush, or the king's son of Kush. That's what how I like to call it. Is the king, son of Kush, which is coming from that heritage. They haven't used that until the Hyksos invasion. So before that, it was the high priest of Amun. So the high priest of Amun is the son of Sutni Kush. He's the same person. But he was responsible for the priesthood, and he's the most powerful man. You know the story, the Pharaoh and the priest? Whatever that Abrahamic background you come from, there's always this Pharaoh, and even in legend, there's always the Pharaoh and the priest trying to rule the world, so to say. So you have the king and you have the priest. The power, the political power, and the spiritual power. And they go together. So you have the Nasud Beti, which is the king of the two lands, and you have the high priest of Amun, the second man. It started like this. Kemet is the nationality. They all make Kemet. They all the protector of Kemet. They all founders of Kemet. Kemet is the nationality. It's not Kush at all. Because Kemet, everyone can be. The Nubian can be from Kemet. The Bija can be from Kemet. The Four can be from Kemet. Whoever Sudanese tribe there can be. The Ja'ali can be from Kemet. All the Sudanese tribes can be from Kemet. But when we speak about Kush, Kush is an ethnic net. So you can't call yourself I'm from Kush just like that. It's not because we don't know. It's not a racist thing. It's not like, hey, you're not from Kush. It's not a racist thing. It's an ethnic. It's a background thing. So if your background from another tribe, you can't just be from Kush, but you can be from Kemet. You can be from the nationality. Just like any tribe have their culture and have their own culture and their own background. So not an individual from a tribe, he cannot say, hey, I belong to this tribe. He's not. But he belonged to Sudan. Sudan is the nationality. Sudan is the nationality for all of us. So Kemet, the same name, Kemet. Go watch a video I made. Kemet means Sudan, which is Kemet is the same name, same meaning. Kemet, Sudan, black, and Sudan, ta, land. Kemet, Sudan is the same name linguistically, culturally. So Sudan is the nationality. So after the Kush, after the Hyksos invasion, the Hyksos invaded Kemet, and they called the Higa Khassut, right? Which means the rulers, the foreign rulers, Higa Khassut, the foreign ruler. That's what the name Hyksos came from. A rebellion took place in Kush by a man named Ahmos. Ahmos took all the Kushite and the Kemetic people, the nation, into a strike against strike until they took over the what is it called, the horse and the carriage that the horse take with it. So they took it with them. With the Hyksos made it, but Ahmos and his people, they took those horses and they push the Hyksos away from Kemet. That's how they made this great plan to take over Kemet and rebel and liberate Kemet. So they liberated Kemet, and Ahmos, the Kushite, and Ahmos, the king. There's two Ahmos. He might be the same person. We never know. He became the Nasud Beti, which is the king of Upper and Lower Kemet. And this is where the high priest of Amun have another title, which is Sanasut Nikush. This is the first time that the Sanasut Nikush name took place. It wasn't there. It only existed after the Hyksos invasion. So the Hyksos, after the liberation and defeating the Hyksos, Ahmos become the Nasud Beti, or the king, and the high priest of Amun, his name is also Ahmos, he became Sanasut Nikush, which is the king the son of Kush, king son of Kush. It's a title. It's a title. And he was the second man, the hand man, the hand man, the right man of the king, the vice president, the second man of the state, the prime minister, overseer of the scribes, overseer of Kush, overseer of spokesman of the Kemet to all the nation. So this title, Sana Sutni Kush, started from Ahmos until the 22 dynasty. So we're talking about from the 16 dynasty, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all these dynasties, these are thousands of years. The name Sana Sutni Kush was the name that represent the second man of the state. After the 22 dynasty, the Mishwish tribe, the Libyans came and took over, and the Libyans, they conquered. They tried to push the Kushite out of Kemet, fighting the Kemet, or always using the Greek or the Persian. The Libyans used the Persian to fight the Kushite. And the Greeks used the Nubians to fight the Kushites. So you always need an ally from outside so you can fight the Kushite. You cannot take them by yourself, obviously. So that would happen. Then came the 25th dynasty. So the 25th dynasty, the famous dynasty, they came and they become the rulers of Kemet, or they become the Nusud Beti, Alara, and Taharga, and Shabaktu, and the 25th dynasty. Now those are the Kushites that they came to reclaim the whole thing, and they came to save Kemet from its decline. That's why Kush is the origin of Kemet, the backbone of Kemet, the protector of Kemet. Kush is always there for Kemet, for the civilization. So the 25th dynasty is the last one who can uphold this civilization before it falls down, and it did. That's why they use the old kingdom style of writing. The old kingdom style. The builder of the pyramids. The old kingdom. Kingdom 1, 2. They use the old kingdom style of burying in the tombs and decorating their culture, their belonging with the old kingdom style, because that's like they sending a message is that we are the protector of Kemet, and we are not gonna let Kemet fall down, and we will always be the backbone of Kemet, and we bringing back the old ways of Kemet. That's how we are loyal, that's how we belong, and that's how we are the origin of Kemet. Unlike the Libyans on the other side, who fought against Kemet, Unlike the Nubians on the other side, who fought against Kemet, because at the end of the day, they've been used by the Greeks to conquer Kemet, or to conquer the Kushite. So now calling themselves Kushite is not gonna make this go away. We have to face reality, or we have to face history, and we have to find solution. But we cannot hide from history. So the 25th dynasty, the Kushite, the Teharga dynasty, they took over the whole of Kemet, and they pushed the Libyans out, and they brought the stability and the nationality back. That's why Bi'anchi called himself Higa Kemet, the ruler of Kemet, not the ruler of Kush. That's the difference. That's the political mind. That's how politician works. That's how you bring people together. You don't. If you call yourself Kushite, not all people are Kushite. So, if you call yourself a Kushite, why would any other people listen to you? Someone would listen, and he's not a Kushite, so what do I have to do with this? But when I call myself Kemet, Kemet is for all of us, for the Kushite, for the Nubians, for the Bija, for the For the Ja'ali, for all the tribes. Kemet is for all of us. But you have to know, so you don't get this twisted, like the Libyans try to conquer the Kushite. You have to know that the Kushites are the protector of Kemet. The backbone of Kemet are the Kushites. The one who actually hold up Kemet together is the Kushites. But are we all Kushites? No. Some of us are not. Those in the diaspora, some of them are Kushite, some of them are not. In Sudan, some Kushite, some not. It's not a big deal to be a Kushite. It's not a big deal to be a Kushite, but the big deal is to be a Sudanese. Can't we all be Sudanese? That's what John Garant said. Instead of being African, being Arab, can we all be Sudanese? So that's the question. Can we all be Sudanese? You have to understand, when we speak about Kush, we only speak about Kush in danger. When there's a danger coming to Kush. Other way, we speak about Sudan. We speak about Kemet as a nationality. We even wrote the book, and we took all the Sheikh Anta Diab and all the scholarship that bring the tribal ethnic background, and we speak about Kemet as a whole. But if you think, whoever you are, if you think that you can nail Kush or you can go against Kush, that's where the red line comes up. That's when you cannot cross that line. So those in the diaspora should know that you cannot cross the line. You cannot go over Kemet and go all West African to the whole thing. You cannot skip Kush. Not yesterday, not today, not in the future. No matter how influence you have on the mind and wealth you have, and Hollywood and influence that the West give you, You have to understand, you will never skip Kush. Kush is the origin of Kemet. And Kush is the backbone of Kemet. So what scholarship you have and what knowledge you have, it cannot bypass Kush. End of story. Kush is the origin and it's the backbone and it's linguistically, Rani Kemet, Midu Necha is a Kushite language. Period. End of story. You want to link it with the Nubian? Go ahead. You want to link it with Wolof? You want to link it with Bantu? You want to link it with any West African or any African tribe? You want to do it? Do it. No one's going to stop you. But you cannot bypass the Cushitic heritage that is inhabiting the whole Kemetic civilization. You cannot pass that. So this is a message for Osarim Hotep, Wijau, and all this West African in the diaspora. Do whatever you want. You can go to Ghana, you can work with this West African thing, but you can never skip the Kushite heritage, linguistically speaking. I read Midu Necha just like you do. I study Midu Necha just like you do. And I know that Midu Necha is a Cushitic language. It belonged to the Cushitic people. And this is belong to the Cushitic people. And this is a fact you can never skip from. No matter how glamour you got in the West, the Kushites are in the land, and the Kushites are the inherited of the Kemet civilization. I thank you for this, for listening, and I hope that I haven't been pressing too much. I was just laying out the truth for you to hear. And Sudan is for all of us. It doesn't matter you from Darfur, you from the Nuba Mountain, you from the north of Sudan, you from Kordofan, you from the east, it doesn't matter. We all Sudanese. And we have the national project that uphold the Sudanese together. Maybe the cultural or the consciousness is still developing, but at the end of the day, you will find out that Kemet is your nationality. Maybe you have, you're gonna take your time as a Sudanese. Take all the time you have. I mean, Sudanese people, I love you. I live my whole life for the Sudanese people. So take your time until you settle down and you figure out for yourself that Kemet is the most important thing. Now you might think that, oh, the Janjaweed, the military, democracy, with the civilians, and we need. You might think that this is not what you need to do is to reclaim Kemet. So Sudanese people, take your time. Take your time. Fight your fight. Fight against the military. Fight for your freedom. Fight for your democracy. Do it. Take all the time. Take 50 years. But you are Sudanese people. You will find out. You will come along. You will come along eventually. So take your time. And you are the hero of this story. The Sudanese people, collectively, you are going to take Kemet and you're going to make it a nationality. You're going to do it.
Take your time. Let this consciousness be. We're not gonna press you. It took us so long to get this consciousness. This consciousness is not just gonna upload to your head. But collectively, Sudanese people, you are the Kemetic people, you are the Sudanese people, and you are going to reclaim this civilization. One day, you are going to do it. And I hope I be living to see that. Thank you very much. دوا عنخ وجا سنة